Okay, what we're showing you here is basically what we refer to as more of a vehicle-specific package. So what we have here is small block Ford, 347 cubic inches. This just happens to be a particular package we've done for a client, so I just went ahead and videoed this just to show you an outline. So how it all kind of starts is when one reaches us for an engine combination, we're going to be looking at from oil pan to the intake manifold as a complete motor, and then do a partial turnkey, either carbureted or in this case fuel injected. That's a Holley Terminator system. So we've got our fuel system, our ignition system, which in this video you don't see is we provide you the ignition box, the coil, and a hardware finishing package, which is like PCV valves, so on and so forth. Then kind of how our quote process goes from there is, okay, what kind of valve cover upgrade would you like? What kind of finish on the manifold? Do you want to custom paint the engine block? What color of wires? Then we look at the front pulley system. What are we running? In this case here, you'll see this nice March. It's all billet and then clear coated. So the nice thing is this just wipes right off with a rag real easily. But this is going to incorporate the air conditioning compressor, the water pump, the alternator, and a power steering. Now, a couple of things we do when we sell you the kit is you'll see right here is where the AC manifold adapts. Well, that's an additional $120. So we provide you the manifold adapter for the AC compressor. On top of that, we've got a remote style power steering pump, or a Type 2 GM pump requires an external reservoir. So we provide you the reservoir with proper banjo fitting and such from Billet Specialties or March. And you know, that completes the engine as a package from essentially pulleys to the back. Then we get into the transmission. We'll discuss whether we want to do a manual or auto transmission. And as you can see here, this is a hydraulic style. So it's got the McLeod release bearing. It's a twin disc RST clutch package for a nice smooth pedal effort. And we basically provide the flywheel, the clutch, the pilot bearing, the release bearing, the bell housing, and we do a test fit and mock-up. We measure everything, get the bearing end play correct, and then stab the transmission in for an initial fit. And then from that point, we'll go ahead and slide the transmission back out, because as you see, the size of this crate right here isn't going to allow for the tranny. So we'll pull this back off and we'll mount it beside the engine there. So that's kind of the engine package, so to speak, from pulleys to the tail housing of the trans, and then I'll get into what makes up the rest of the vehicle-specific package. Okay, so now to make up more of the vehicle-specific package, one of the things I did leave out was also pan selection, front sump on this or rear sump based on whatever kind of front end. So real quickly, I'll show you. We've got a couple of builds. Here's a 68, but this 66 fastback, which we have done a Mustang 2 front suspension in, nice shock tower delete panels and everything custom fabricated by us at Prestige. Basically, this style front end is going to require a rear sump oil pan, so the sump will sit here. That's why we'll need to know what front end you're using. Now, in the case of this 68 brand new build, this Eleanor that we're doing, it is getting, I'll do a little bit more detail, but it is getting the Chris Alston Chassis Works or Total Control Products complete Eleanor suspension system. In that case, what we have here is our power steering rack and pinion, and it goes in the stock location of the original cross member. So in that case, we are able to still retain a good Moroso front sump pan. Furthermore, I'll mention, we always preach that no longer do we recommend using a mechanical fuel pump. Well, in situations like this Style Track front end uses a short water pump and a 1994 Mustang front timing cover, there is no provision for a mechanical fuel pump. So a couple of things. Number one, they also didn't have a dipstick up front because they always ran a rear sump pan in a Mustang. So anytime we do this pulley kit, it is a must that we upgrade to a good pan, whether it's front or rear sump, so we can retain a good dipstick. And you'll see no junk here, all good stuff. This is a low car anchor tight, so it actually locks in so you don't blow that out. That's especially important in boosted engines, but we use a nice anchor tight dipstick. And since I'm already up here, part of the package is that we use a Ron Morris Performance engine mounts, and these are fully adjustable. So you'll see these slotted areas. The motor mount is able to move forward and rearward, side to side, and up and down at least an inch. And it's a nice barrel mount style, you know, polyurethane, nice TIG welded construction, good stuff. So of course we got the engine mounts. Then also we provide you with a good starter. These are kind of slick. They call them an infini clock. So basically when you loosen these two set screws, this will allow us to rotate the starter 360 degrees. Of course, in this situation, you know, you can't do it when it's mounted to the engine because it's going to hit the block. But what's really nice is essentially we're able to rotate it out or in, and we can clear any kind of style of headers for the most part with that particular starter. Nice gear reduction. Again, all name brand, no junk. You know, that's where the PowerMaster XS and then the Ron Morris mounts. And I did just lightly touch the EFI. One of #1 choice for us is a Holley, either a Terminator bolt-on like this, or the HP systems, or getting a little bit more serious is going to be the Dominator ECU. And you'll see that there is actually the Terminator ECU. Then we look at the front radiator package. You know, it really makes sense to pay attention to your radiator package in regards to how much motor we've got. What you'll see here is a nice spall fan, moves about 2,000 CFM, and it comes on a nice shroud that's built for the radiator. Hits all the original bolt hole locations, and one of the things you'll notice is the finish of the radiator is actually quite nice. Doesn't take much if you wanted to polish it, so you can polish it all up, but our kit will be the radiator. It's a dual 1-inch core, a good spall fan, no cheap junk once again. One of the things we do is we install a bung down in the radiator. Part of the reason is, small block Ford especially, we've got a water outlet here that's going to be for your heater core. There'll be a crossover line from here to here to the pump from the thermostat housing, which we do provide, billet specialties. And then this other connection is going to go to your heater core. So it doesn't leave us much left when we got a coolant temp sensor to operate the EFI. And then at the back of the manifold, there is no other water ports. So the problem that you have is, #1, if we wanted a gauge port for, say, an different type of gauge, if we were doing autometers, something like that, we might have to put a T in here, but we're still left with no temperature control switching device for our radiator. So that's part of the reason that we take the install the temp sender directly into the radiator. And the way that this the relay stack is going to be wired is constant battery power through the relay directly to the fans. It's direct plug-in to the relay, and we're going to jumper the switched power to the actual direct battery power. So the only thing that triggers that relay is going to be the grounding switch from the sensor. So this way you start the car, it allows it to get to temperature rather quick, and then it's going to turn the fan on when that temp switch reaches that temperature of 175, 180. And then the nice thing is, when we turn the vehicle off, the fan is going to continue to run, and the radiator actually cools down within a minute or two, and the switch then opens and shuts it off. So we don't have heat soak afterwards. So that's kind of how we wire up our radiator package. And this will also include, which I don't have handy with me, but it does include the overflow reservoir as well, and it's direct matching to the power steering reservoir that we provide too. So that's quite nice. So we go from radiator, complete, customized and personalized engine package, tranny package, and then we get into our fuel system. As mentioned, we do not recommend running a mechanical fuel pump due to boiling of the fuel and just overall poor fuel quality in today's day and age. So what you're looking at here is actually a tank sink tank that's purchased through Aeromotive, a very good dealer, very high-end fuel system company. They've got their billet drop in-tank fuel pump, which got inlet, outlet, and a vent. We have the sending unit. We provide you with the hose connection that you can trim. And this big old box of parts here is going to be your return line stuff, gauges, and a whole bunch of fittings. One might ask, why is the fuel system, $400? Well, you're looking at a bag of billet fittings and line that basically makes up that costing. Now, you could do it much cheaper if you want to do rubber line. We just look at it when you're purchasing a high quality engine like that and a good fuel system, that why are we going to cheap out with just regular rubber line? But of course, if you want to do so, you can. But that makes up our fuel system package. There's actually a rollover vent in this bag as well, just in case. God, hopefully that never happens. This particular customer wanted more of the Eleanor type GT500 shifter, so it's got the Go Baby Go button, nice billet shifter with all the hidden internal wiring, and even a nice billet plate for the floor mount. That actually includes these pedal covers and also the arming switch. So that's something Eleanor specific. Then you'll see the rest of what makes up this package. So we've got radiator, engine, transmission, fuel system, all of that stuff, the fuel system, and then basically the suspension portion of it is right here what you're looking at. And I'll get into a little bit more detail. You'll see from front to rear it's complete, and it does include the brakes. I haven't pulled all that stuff out, but it's a Wilwood brake system. Depending on the wheel size you choose, we can do various different options for brake packages. Wilwood, Brembo, Bayer, 6-piston calipers, 4-piston calipers, you name it. Powder coated, whatever. So it will include that. And then there's just a box of other goodies here. This gentleman, it was an automatic car, so we're providing him with essentially all of the pedal system to make it all work, tie rod ends, so on and so forth. So I'll go into a little bit more detail on this beautiful suspension package from Total Control. Alright, so a little bit of an in-depth look at this TCP suspension package. We're going to start at the back here. So we've got a really nice fabricated 9-inch rear end, strange super street axles, gets a strange center section with a choice of gear ratio. We do the splined anti-roll bar that goes in the rear end here, adjustable coilover rear suspension, and a canted 4-bar system. For those of you that haven't seen this stuff up close, very, very high quality. This isn't just a store-bought monoball. This is actually a hand-built monoball that's serviceable. Pretty slick, pretty sweet. So that's your upper control arm there. Really heavy-duty stuff. Their various shocks are a really nice piece. Choice of spring rate depending on the car. There's your lower control arms, and this is the cradle assembly that essentially bolts in the car. You can weld it into for extra rigidity. We've got our frame connectors and this crossover plate, which is nice. It does have to be slightly modified if you're going to do side exhaust. You'll see a bunch of hardware. Some of the stuff I didn't pull out of the boxes. Once again, another nice system as far as the front suspension, upper and lower control arms, all the billet standoffs for basically your shock mounts. Does get the proper spindles and these beautiful strut rods up front. Once again, a fully built monoball and kind of stock style suspension, but overall, I mean, this is a killer upgrade package. Got a front sway bar system. Of course, you can do right or left-hand drive, power rack and pinion gearbox, all the same products over there. And then we've got our Monte Carlo bar off of the strut towers. I just don't have the ball ends here, monoballs, but it all bolts in the car. This is a excellent system, and it is Eleanor specific or Eleanor correct. So, once again, complete motor and transmission package, fuel system, radiator, a bunch of small pieces and parts, the Wilwood brake system, an entire suspension system. And what you're looking at here is basically what will go into what you see is this 68 Mustang Fastback. This is a brand new body. You're going to find in some other videos we've done in the past. You'll see a 66 over there that's got some explanation on it. This one will be slightly different, so it'll lead me just briefly into what we offer for our vehicle specific packages. This is the most common from Total Control products, a very more cost-effective way, let's just say, not nearly as nice a stuff, but more or less a factory, looking at this car, factory leaf spring, cow tracks, and a nice adjustable shock in the rear with a standard 9-inch strange center section. Up front, we would basically, keeping it budget minded, up front we're going to use factory upper and lower control arms and a Varia shock adjustable front coilover. This way we can adjust the ride height of the car. But essentially all of that being factory components, much, I wouldn't say easier to obtain, but replacement parts are easy to obtain. And if a guy wanted power steering, typically in a combination like that, we'll do the Borgeson box on the other side of this fender apron. Just a Borgeson power gearbox, all factory suspension parts and steering parts, and then a choice of brakes, whether you just do a basic kit from Master Power Brakes or we get into Willwood, Brembo, Bayer, so on and so forth. So that suspension package is much cheaper, but again, you can see why it would be cheaper in comparison to the TCP. Now from this point, this package here you're looking at is nearly $30,000, but it is absolutely everything you need from front to rear. And granted, everything's not pulled out of the boxes. I'm just trying to give you a good overview on the level of quality and what kind of expertise you can, you know, assure yourself you're going to get when you purchase from Prestige. This car is actually going to get the next step up, which includes cutting out the entire floor pan. Now, we've bought the car where it's already been obviously welded together, but all of this will be taken out for a full-on chassis. Basically, it will be a torque arm, Watts Link style suspension, fully adjustable, allow us to get almost a 315 tire up front and a 395 tire in the rear. And if that ain't some meat to put down on the road, I don't know what is. The moral to the story is when you're looking at building a custom car and you're doing your research and looking around, is there's so many available options. And what's the level you want to go to is kind of that and the main budget. But you know, in this particular instance, this Eleanor will be getting a 582 big block Chev that's got a 300 shot of nitrous on it, a 6-speed paddle shifted GM 6-speed trans, and you know, you go to that level of build and we can't just use traditional suspension. Granted, the TCP will work really well and that's absolutely just fine for the car. But one of the things, by putting the full chassis under it, we're going to enhance the structure of that car. A lot less likelihood with 1,000+ horsepower to tweak and twist that whole chassis or unibody. So that's where, you know, what you see in the video here is the entire chassis stiffening system, but that much better to put a full-on chassis underneath the 68. Everything's upgradable, optional. The motor, like I said, there's our 440 horsepower version, 347, all dressed out, and an entire package. This is very easy from this point. If you want to upgrade to a 427 Windsor, say our 500 horse version, you're going to add $1,000. If we're going to go to our 575 Super Street version or a boosted version, it goes up from there. But you know, this $30,000 package essentially can be trimmed down depending on the suspension you decide to use, tranny, and so on and so forth. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of what you can expect when you purchase an engine from Prestige, because not only do we build excellent engines, behind that wall there is all of our entire machine shop area, engine dyno, mills, lathes, boring bars, you name it. But on this side is our, basically you'll see, is our vehicle installation center. And this is how we've been able to come up with vehicle specific packages selling you exactly what fits and what we use in-house. And we're pretty diversified. So you'll see at the end there, 68 Camaro all the way up on the lift, getting full suspension, rear end, engine, transmission package. There's the 427 Super Street small block Chev. We got a Charger, and then our few Mustang projects. This is how you can assure yourself that you're going to get quality and also the expertise to back it up. Don't hesitate. If you got any questions, give us a call, 704-782-7170. Thanks for watching.